too.
She dodged to one side, grabbing him by the back of his sweatshirt and dangling him at arm's length. A wicked smirk spread across her face as she watched T.G. frantically twist and turn to get away. Wild Jill released her fingers, letting T.G. fall to the floor with a bump. His face flushed. Everyone in the saloon was looking at him, pointing and snickering. Scrabbling to his feet, he made a dash for the swing doors. But just as he was about to dive outside, the sound of gunfire ripped through the air, making him throw himself down again. From outside came the sound of pounding horses' hooves, then more shots and loud, rough laughter. Peeking out from under the doors, T.G. saw a group of 4 young men tying up their horses, shouting, slapping each other on the back and guffawing. "Yippee!" yelled Wild Jill. "It's Billy the Burp gang at last. Now we can see some action. Hold on to your hat, T.G. The fun's about to begin." The Burp gang burst in through the saloon doors and silence fell again. T.G. scrunched himself up as small as he could. He even thought about hiding under a table. "Hey there, T.G. Mosey on over here and show us what you're made of," boomed a jeering voice from behind him. T.G. didn't move. "Oh, go get him," ordered the voice. There was some laughter as the sound of jangling spurs came towards him. 2 hands grabbed him under the arms, lifting him to his feet. Then he was being half dragged, half pulled along. When he eventually opened his eyes, he saw a tall, thin cowboy staring at him, with amusement twinkling in his dark, smoky eyes. Perched jauntily on his head was a black cowboy hat sporting a silver hatband. He was dressed from head to foot in black. Embroidered silver bubbles decorated his black leather waistcoat. As he stepped towards T.G. and ever so slightly bandy legs, his silver spurs clinked. "Hey there, partner. Glad to make your acquaintance," he drawled, slapping T.G. on the back. "The name's Billy the Burp. This here is my gang, the Fizzy Bottom Burp Gang." Billy draped one arm in a friendly fashion around T.G.'s shoulders. "Now let's get down to business. I've waited a long time to meet you. You're the one I need to complete the Burp Gang. You just have to pass the test and you're in." T.G. had never been part of a gang before. Everyone at school just laughed at him. Now here was this group of tough cowboys wanting him, Terry Grant, to be one of the Burp Gang. "Okay," beamed T.G. "What do you want me to do?" "You'll see," smirked Billy. Then he led T.G. over to the bar, shouting, "The fizz is on me!" "What's your poison, T.G.? Do you like fizzy drinks?" bubbled the barman, pointing to all the colourful bottles behind him. T.G.'s face shone with pleasure. "I absolutely love them. Cherry cola is my very favourite." Sweeping his arm towards the colourful shelves behind him, the barman said, "Well, we've got plenty more. We can make cocktails of any combination you want. Take your pick." T.G.'s eyes quickly ran along the fizzing bottles. The vivid liquid sparkled invitingly. Exciting labels leapt out at him. Cavalry Charge was bright blue, with enormous yellow bubbles rhythmically floating up and down with military precision. Flash in the Pan looked like fireworks were exploding every couple of seconds. Deepest Black Magic Bullet had silver bullet-shaped bubbles darting about, hitting the sides of the glass and diving away. The corks seemed to be under great pressure, heaving up and down. T.G. didn't know which to choose. Apricot Ambosh, Dynamite, Billy's Famous Fizz, KYSO. Hang on a minute. "What's KYSO?" asked T.G. "Knock your socks off," replied Chief Cola, one of the gang. "But I wouldn't choose that. It's very strong." "Is it alcoholic?" "I'm not allowed alcohol," said T.G., backing away. Billy grabbed his arm. "Oh no, these are all non-alcoholic, just like the colas you drink back home. Remember the tickly feeling and the buzz you get when you drink them?" T.G. nodded. "These are even better than that," coaxed Billy. Now, which one do you want to start with? Ooh, I'll have a magic bullet, please. The barman reached up and took down the bottle. He only had to lightly touch the cork. It flew out and black liquid and froth burst out all over the floor. Silver bubbles danced towards TG, one bursting on the end of his nose. He giggled with delight. The barman handed him his tumbler, then filled another for Billy, who swigged it back in one big gulp. TG did the same. The bubble bullets dived around his mouth, exploding on his tongue like sherbet powder, releasing a delicious shot of flavour. It was like licorice and aniseed balls all in one. TG's nose tingled and his mouth watered. It was wonderful. The Burp gang stamped and clapped with glee. Then Billy's face became serious. Now for the challenge, so you can become a fully fledged member of the Burp gang. Can you burp? Of course I can, but Mum always gets cross when I do. She says it's rude. You're in luck, because it isn't rude here. Fact is, the bigger the burp, the better. All you've got to do now is burp longer and louder than me, and you can join the gang. It's a burping duel. Sure I can do that. Sounds fun, cried TG. Billy just laughed. Let's get fizzed up. Line 'em up, barman. They all had another drink and practised burping after each one of the bubbles escaped from down their bellies. It was great fun, and they fell about laughing, tears streaming down their faces. Now it was the time for the duel. By now they had all had loads of glasses of fizzy drinks. The Burp gang were all very agitated. Wild Jill's eyes were more manic than ever, her hair sticking out like she'd just put her finger in an electric socket. Suddenly the atmosphere grew serious. The room was charged with anticipation. TG, caught up in the excitement, had the fuzzy feeling he always got after having fizzy drinks. His head was buzzing, and he felt like jumping around. But he was also beginning to feel irritated, and couldn't understand why. After all, he was having such fun, wasn't he? Billy thumped the bar. 2 KYSOs, and be quick about it. Not the KYSO, gasped the barman. Shut it, you, spat Billy. I'm the referee, yelled Wild Jill gleefully. TG, stand back to back with Billy. When I say go, you throw back your drink, drop the glass, and then take 5 steps. Stop and turn to face each other, then burp as long and loud as you can. You both ready? They stood back to back. There was complete silence in the room. Jill raised her arm, brought it smartly down, and bellowed, Go, go, go! Billy jerked up his arm, knocking TG so the glass hit his lip. Some of TG's KYSO slopped onto the floor, and the knock your socks off hit the back of his throat before he could swallow, making him choke. The drink itself was harsh and acidy, making his eyes water, and the bubbles hit the back of his nose with a bang. He stumbled 5 paces and turned. Billy was already preparing to burp. You cheat, shouted TG. You dirty, rotten cheat! What did you call me, you curly polecat? Thundered Billy as he stared towards TG. Yippee! Yelled Jill. It's a fight, 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 fight! Everyone in the room seemed to go mad as they sprang at each other, swinging punches right and left. TG ducked to the floor, crawling towards the swing doors. He slithered out onto the sidewalk. The street was empty apart from a ball of dried hay blowing in the wind. Sky! Sage! Scarlet! Cried TG, but he got no reply. TG felt afraid and alone. His head was swimming. His tummy and throat hurt from all the burping. He thrust his hands in his pockets and his fingers nudged a card. The Crystal Lady. Oh, no. Very slowly he took out the card, afraid to look. Just as he'd feared, she'd nearly disappeared altogether. Why did he keep on forgetting himself and making such bad choices? I failed again, thought TG miserably. He sat down to think. What should he do now? In the back of his mind, he knew there was something, but he couldn't quite remember. Then a smile spread across his face. Closing his eyes, he shouted, "Fighto power!" as loudly as he could. The familiar whooshing sound surrounded him as he was lifted off his feet. He landed with a bump back in the cave room. He looked across to where the wooden bench had been, expecting to see the warriors waiting for him. They weren't there. The room was empty except for a hammock strung from one corner to another, swaying gently in the breeze. The air smelt like the seaside, all seaweedy and salty. And was that the aroma of fish and chips wafting under his nose? His starving tummy growled. Another tunnel had appeared, and the unmistakable cry of seagulls echoed off the rocky walls. TG became aware that he was standing on a wooden jetty. He peered over the edge into the tunnel, but there was nothing to see except water and green, slimy, jagged rocks. The gentle lap of waves filled the silence. He was feeling annoyed and angry with the whole world. He hadn't asked to be chosen to save the Crystal Lady. Why couldn't they just have left him alone? Now he really was all alone in a strange place with no one to help him get home. His fists started to clench and his ears to burn. He was bursting with anger and self-pity. He'd had enough. "It's not fair," he shouted to the empty cave room. His words bounced back to him as they echoed mockingly around the cave walls. "It's not fair, it's not fair, it's not fair, it's not fair."